Many new nonprofits hope to land grant funding to help support their growing mission. But getting that very first nonprofit grant can feel like an overwhelming challenge. If you're new to grant research and grant writing, where do you even begin? How can you give your newer or small nonprofit the best chance at getting that first grant? In this video, I'm going to talk you through 3 steps that can help your nonprofit with that. Welcome back. I'm Amber Melanie Smith, nonprofit founder, social entrepreneur, and social impact YouTuber. I have over 250 videos on my channel all about these topics: nonprofits, fundraising, grant writing, social entrepreneurship, etc. I hope you get a chance to check out those free resources. I also have my weekly newsletter, Changemaker Mondays, that has all sorts of other tips and strategies that I send out, and sometimes, even grant opportunities. You don't want to miss that. You can subscribe at the link below. Check out my website, changemakercafe.com, for all of these resources and more. All right, let's get right into this. I'm going to talk you through these 3 steps that are going to help you and your nonprofit get on the right track to secure that first grant. If you are newer to grant writing, you might be surprised that there are several things that you need to do or have in place before you can even start to write that first grant request. So the first step we're going to cover here is that checklist of what you need to have in place before you can apply for a grant. So most grant writers are going to expect you to submit certain documents or certain types of data as part of their grant application. So if you don't have these things ready or prepared before you start writing a grant or submitting requests, you might feel frustrated or face delays. Here's that checklist of common documents or pieces of information that you're going to want to have handy before you can start writing these grant applications. That first item is proof of your official nonprofit status. Grant funders, like 99.999% of them in the United States at least, are going to request this proof that you have your official nonprofit status as part of the first phase of that grant application. It's not enough to just be incorporated in your state as a nonprofit. You have to be a federally recognized nonprofit. So make sure you have that IRS letter showing your 501c3 public charity status and that tax ID number ready. The second thing on our checklist is your organization and your project budgets. So this is where you want to have your board approved budget for the fiscal year that you're applying for the grant for. A lot of grant funders are going to ask you to upload your organization's budget as part of the application. I also recommend, if you are applying for a grant that's for a special project, you might want to have a separated project budget ready too, because sometimes the funders will ask for that as a separate document. Now, your project budget, of course, is where you're showing the specific costs from your entire organization's budget that are related to that specific initiative. So your direct costs, the things that are directly part of the expenses, like equipment you might need for that project, etc., or staffing costs, etc. Indirect costs might be like the payroll expenses that are related to the staff hours of the staff who are executing on that project. All sorts of things like that can go on that budget. The third document you want to have handy is your list of your board of directors members. Now, not every grant funder is going to ask for this, but I've seen plenty that have, so that I wanted to include it on this checklist for you. Sometimes funders want to see the list of your board members to include their names, what their city of residence is, maybe where they work, their qualifications, or maybe even a short bio for each board member. Part of this is to add a sense of credibility to the organization and make sure that you have the right leadership in place to show that you're going to be effective at achieving your goals as an organization through your programs. The fourth item here is data or statistics or research that outlines the need in your community that your nonprofit is tackling. This is going to be a must for every grant application. You want credible information about how many people your nonprofit is going to be serving, how many are affected by the specific issue that your nonprofit tackles, whether it's food insecurity or homelessness, or whether you're helping animals, etc. Be ready to share data and stories and statistics about the need in your community so that funders will readily understand why the work of your nonprofit matters. So you need that data about the need in your community that your nonprofit is tackling, but you also need a description of your organization's mission and goals. So this is going to outline how your organization is tackling the need that you shared data for in the previous item. So you're going to need to have your mission statement, your target population, who you serve, and how you're serving them. So a description of your programs. Some funders will also ask about your goals for the next year. So how many people do you aim to serve in the upcoming year, and how will you serve them? And the final item on this checklist is data and impacts about your past successes. Grant requests will often ask for this data about your track record. So how many people have you already served in the past, and to what degree of success? For example, you might say you served 100 people last year and 90% of the people you served reported feeling more confident in their job interviews, for example. Providing this information, once again, provides credibility, but it also shows the funders that your programs work, that they're effective. Now, one of the reasons that grant funding can be so challenging to get is because funders are looking for this track record of success, which begs the question, what do you do if you are a newer organization, or maybe even a smaller organization that is just ramping up your efforts? What I recommend you do is a couple of things if this is you, if you're in this situation. One, see if you can go ahead and collect some data now. Maybe send out a quick survey or ask for testimonials from the people that you are in contact with already, your mailing list, anyone that you've already served. Go ahead and collect what data you can now. And the second thing you want to do is, if your organization and its mission and programming was based on a model from another city or another location, you can take a look at the successes that those organizations have had in other cities and say to the funder something like, we're just getting started, but we're based on a model in this city that has been highly effective, and explain how. You just want to be able to build a case as to why your organization is effective or why you think it's going to be effective. All right, we are on to step 2, which is all about finding the grants that you're going to apply for. Now, at this point, you've got your documents, your data hopefully collected and at the ready, so that once you find a good grant that's going to be the right fit, you will be ready to write that grant application. And this step is all about targeting small grants first. I know, I myself have fallen victim to the daydreams of landing $1 million grant in the early years of starting my nonprofit. But while winning the proverbial grant lottery is pretty rare and pretty hard to do, I will say you can work your way up. So we're gonna start small here, and that's gonna build some momentum to get larger grants later on. This step is all about finding the grants that are gonna be most likely to give you a grant, the best odds of success for this first grant, right? So in my experience, to increase your odds of getting your first grant as a newer organization, you really want to be looking for grants that meet the following criteria. One, they are smaller grants, and by smaller I mean in the dollar amount. So you might be looking at $500 to $5,000 ranges here. Second, it's got to be from funders who already care about the issue area that your nonprofit will tackle. And you can learn that by looking at their past grantees or looking at their website. They're usually very clear and upfront about what issues they care about as a funder. Third, you want to be looking for grants that have a simple and not very long grant application. And the reason for this is simply return on investment. I don't want anyone to be spending hours and hours and hours on a grant that'll yield you $1,000 if you happen to get it. You've got to know what your time is worth as a leader trying to make social impact, and sometimes that means not filling out every grant application. And the final criteria is I recommend you look for grants that are locally based because you're going to have greater odds, less competition, though of course every city has lots of nonprofits that might be competing. It's still going to be less than if you go after a national grant. Okay, with this criteria in mind, where do you actually find these types of grants? You can certainly use a grants database like Instrumental. I've showcased them on this channel before, or look through their documents on GuideStar. But honestly, when you're talking about grants of these criteria, you can also just do some internet sleuthing to try to find the types of funders you're looking for. And I'm going to recommend you look at 3 different types of funders. The first is community foundations, the second is family foundations, and the third is corporate giving. Finding a community foundation, if one exists in your city or region, is not that hard. You can honestly just go into the internet and type in community foundation plus your city name, and it's very likely to pop up if you have one in your city. For family foundations, these are organizations that often fly a little under the radar because they're created by families, like ones you know down the street, who want to be philanthropic, who want to give money to charity, and they want an organized way of doing that, and maybe getting their family involved. So some of them have websites, some of them don't. Some of them don't want to be contacted by anyone they don't know, and some are open to that. So you really have to do some digging here. But again, you can just type in family foundation plus your city name to see if you can find any that have public websites and invite communication. And for corporate giving, you want to be looking for companies that have local branches or local headquarters in your city. I'm talking about businesses like car dealerships, accounting firms, law firms, branches of banks in your city. Sometimes grocery stores or retailers have small grants or giving that they do too. You can also find these businesses by looking at the websites of your Chamber of Commerce and looking at their member directory. You can go out to networking events and try to meet some of these businesses in person. I highly recommend that because a personal connection can always go a long way when it comes to fundraising. And then you can research the corporate social responsibility initiatives on the websites of the businesses that you identify, because they'll talk about if they have a giving program, how to apply for it, what types of organizations they've given to in the past, etc. This is a great time to thank our video's sponsor, Click and Pledge. Whether you are fundraising through grants or events or sponsorships or individual donations, you need a fundraising solution that is going to scale as you scale as a nonprofit. And that is our sponsor, Click and Pledge. Click and Pledge is a fundraising solution great for nonprofits who need to raise money and grow. And they have a lot of features that are going to help you do that, including text to give, peer-to-peer fundraising so you can empower your supporters to go out there and raise money for your cause. One of my favorite features is their video fundraising tool where you can embed the link to donate to your cause right in a video so people don't have to click off to go to some other page. They can donate right on the video itself. Personalized donor thank you messages and videos that can really help you increase donor retention, keep those supporters coming back year to year, a full Salesforce integration, lots of other integrations, and more. There's some fundraising platforms out there that charge you more as a nonprofit as your donor list and your budget increases, but not Click and Pledge. Their rates stay the same no matter what size you grow to be, helping you raise more and save more at the same time. And there are no long-term contracts, and all of the features come included in that monthly fee. You can scan this QR code to get a month free of Click and Pledge, or use the link below this video to schedule a demo and learn more from the awesome Click and Pledge team. I've met them. They're super fun and friendly. I hope you get a chance to talk to them. Thanks again to Click and Pledge for sponsoring this video. We are on to step 3 of how to get your first grant as a nonprofit. And at this point, we've already taken a look at the documents and data we need to have ready before we can write grants. We've taken a look at the types of grants that might be a good fit or more likely to be able to be gotten as a smaller or newer nonprofit. And in this step, we're going to talk about writing that grant request. All right, so as you are getting ready to fill out that first grant application, you've identified one from the list that you want to try out. A few things to keep in mind. I know it can be tempting to ask for everything under the moon in this grant application, but to increase your odds of success, what we want to actually do with these first grant requests is get very specific and very clear. Like I said before, you want to be able to articulate that need in the community that your nonprofit is addressing. For example, like 1 in 7 US households are food insecure. So having that data at the ready as to why the work of your nonprofit matters. But then when it comes to what you're going to be asking for in terms of how much money you're going to be asking for and for what purpose, this is where you want to get very clear and specific. For this first grant, I recommend focusing on one very specific need you have, such as purchasing a special type of equipment or on serving a certain number of people in the next year, and building your case around that. There are certainly grants out there that provide just general operating funds or funds for salaries, but they're going to be a little bit more rare and a little bit more competitive, especially for a first-time grant receiver. Not saying they're not out there. This video is just about tips to increase your odds of getting that first grant. The key here is explaining clearly in your application what it will mean to your nonprofit to have that thing funded, whether it is a piece of equipment or to be able to serve 50 people, or even to fund an operational or marketing need, like having your first promotional or educational video created by a professional. It's about talking about why this is going to matter to the overall impact of your cause. So using the food insecurity example, we don't want to say, our nonprofit needs $2,000 for a new storage fridge. What you want to say instead is, if we can get $2,000 for a new storage fridge, then we're going to be able to start providing the kids in low-income neighborhoods that we're serving with more nutritious food options. So you see what I did? I showed the consequence of getting the funding. It's going to improve things for people you serve. If a potential funder can understand your request, they're going to be more likely to fund your request. All right, I hope you're feeling more confident about writing your first grant application. I'd love to hear what you think. Share your questions and thoughts in the comments below this video. And of course, don't forget, I have several other, dozens and hundreds, in fact, of other videos on this channel all about fundraising and grants and nonprofit management and social entrepreneurship. I hope that they are a valuable resource for you. Don't forget to go check those out and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Finally, as I mentioned before, don't forget to check out my website, changemakercafe.com, where I have all of my content organized neatly for you. We've got our Changemaker Mondays newsletter, where you can subscribe to that on there. And I also have information about my Changemaker Accelerator membership, where we've got nonprofit and social impact founders joining to learn how to build up their organizations effectively. Hope you can join us there. I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I'll see you next time. Bye.